Welcome back to another episode of the Block Burner Podcast. I'm your host, William, always here with your co-host, Iman.
What's going on, dude?
And on the sticks, we got TJ.
Hello.
And we're back. We took a 2-week hiatus.
Yeah, supposed to be one, turned to two.
Yeah, that was a game time decision.
It was, but also like, another illness comes in, dude.
Through traveling. Again.
Traveling is the worst, dude.
It is the worst.
It's like a guaranteed shoe-in.
It's such a scam, really. It's like
I don't know about
the
that.
vacation is like, it's like pitched as such a great thing, and it's like you're going to relax. It's not relaxing to go on vacation. I've never, ever felt relaxed at a vacation.
I think the problems with vacations is it's never long enough. It's never long enough to justify...
Some relaxing.
Well, to justify all of the, the effort that goes into, going to some other destination, right? It's like, getting on the flight, getting all the stuff together, and then dealing with, airports, and then the certainty of getting sick. And you're away for, you're away for 4 or 5 days max, right? And it's like you barely, by the 4th or 5th day, you're, barely getting into, loose mode.
It could go either way. It's like by the 4th or 5th day, it's like, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you need at least a month to 2 months.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah,
that's like a proper vacation.
I agree.
Or a proper reset.
I totally agree.
Yeah, so it's it's not even worth the effort, and all that hoopla, and then you come back, and it's I really did not de-stress at all.
The crazy thing is I didn't even travel.
Yeah, it wasn't even you traveling.
I got vicariously sick through transmissions from an airport that I didn't even go into.
Exactly, dude.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's life, dude. So that was factored into part of the 2-week hiatus, in other words.
I would say so, but I wouldn't call it that the biggest factor. But it would be hard to do a podcast or any videos under those conditions for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we're back, and as we were gone, Bitcoin hit new all-time highs.
Yeah, it was the most snooziest of all-time highs I've ever experienced.
Definitely. Yeah, and then we did some deeper investigation, found out that the reason why it's so snooze is because retail is completely absent from participating. This, at least, during this stage of the leg up for Bitcoin, right? In history's past, retail was the main financial contributor to getting Bitcoin price action realized to where it needed to go. Right?
Yeah.
Not this time, right? It's something else is happening where it's kind of weird. It's Bitcoin is actually manifesting and into this theoretical thing of of an asset class that has achieved elite status, similar to gold, right? That was the premise when we first started this podcast 6 years ago. That was the first thing we recorded and we're talking about was the idea of Bitcoin being digital gold.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember that.
Yeah, you were sleeping half the time, dude.
What do you mean?
During those conversations.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Elaborate.
I was more enthusiastic about Bitcoin becoming gold, and you're like, yeah, but that's
Are you sure?
There's no. Yes, I'm
Are
sure.
Are you sure that's how that conversation went? I'm pretty sure I was on the same page as you.
No, you're definitely on the same page, but you're like, okay, let's talk about something else now.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think, thankfully, because of my presence, this didn't turn into a Bitcoin Maxi podcast.
And some of the best podcast performance out there are Bitcoin focused.
Yeah, but totally
that's what's crazy.
Snooze-a-thons, dude. We would have been one of those.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? I'm yeah, Bitcoin's great and all, and yeah, for sure, it's on its way to digital gold statusdom. But man, is that not the interesting thing happening right now? Because that we got to remember, I just came out of the
euphoric of 2017.
Yeah, 2017, 2018 cycle, right?
Yeah, where everybody got rich.
It was great. It's in Bitcoin, Bitcoin was happening, but ICOs were so much more interesting, and the prospects of building centralized finance.
Whoa, ICOs, they were talking about changing the world.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
that is interesting.
Yeah, people like Dan Larimer and Charles Hoskinson and Vitalik Buterin, this little fucking 19-year-old World of Warcraft player, created this insanely valuable blockchain. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right? So that was what I wanted to really...
Well, absolutely. You're 100% correct. That is way more interesting.
Yeah, and that led us down a 6-year trajectory of mind-numbing this journey of seeking like digital purpose, right?
Yeah.
Because we could have just not went down that rabbit hole. We could have just stuck to Bitcoin and only be buying Bitcoin and like be those guys, right? Like look at all these idiots out there trying to innovate.
Yeah.
Stupid, and we'd be at the Bitcoin conference right now.
Getting sick, yes.
Getting sicker and then passing it on to everybody else around us, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what's happening right now, literally, as we speak. But by the time this broadcasts on Saturday, I don't know if it will still be going on or not.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, we missed another one, dude. What does that mean to you?
It means progress, I guess.
What do you mean?
It means making progress, being diligent, doing work.
Missing the conference?
Yeah. Conference going is not conducive to getting shit done.
I don't know if I agree. We got a picture here from there's people out there. Luckily we got troops. So let's just dedicate a little bit of time to pay our respects to our homies out there on the front. Literally getting shit done.
Yeah,
right?
This is Monero Nakamoto.
Shout out Monero Nakamoto, dude. And I mean, if there's somebody who's fully repping,
this is the best part right here, dude.
natgmi.com
with an empty mempool.
Completely empty, dude. I wonder how many people like said my estimation would be 99% of people at this Bitcoin conference, having looked at that image, wouldn't even like really know.
They wouldn't even recognize. What are you
trying to tell me? I truly believe that. Like 99% of people who probably have bought Bitcoin probably don't even know like that there is a mempool.
Yeah,
what that looks like, what that interface even is.
Yeah, I agree.
Or like if there's any concern there or not, right?
You know how I know that you're right?
How?
It's because not until we started building on Bitcoin was this stuff relevant.
100%. I didn't even know either. Like I said, I've been in.
I assumed, because I know how it works, so I assumed that, this stuff existed and I knew how it worked, but I didn't know how it looked, like from an interface perspective. Like how are we visualizing this stuff?
Yeah, we didn't really have like a dire need to kind of like really look at the blocks of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Even if we were like buying Bitcoin through Coinbase or whatever to.
Yeah, it's still irrelevant.
Yeah, it's not really like pertinent information.
Yeah, and what's interesting when you buy it on Bitcoin or on Coinbase, you get it instantly.
Yeah.
You're not waiting around 30 minutes for the block to confirm.
Correct. Yeah, so if you don't know what this image represents, we've talked about it several times on the channel, because per our position of what it is we do in this like space, we have deep, intimate relationships with these blocks. Right? Would you agree?
I would agree, yes.
I mean, just keep looking at the pictures, dude. It's like the representations of how intimately like ingrained we are to these things called Bitcoin blocks. Well, there's a thing on his head, that little M crown, dude.
Yeah, the M crown.
That
Bitcoin 2.0.
That is a DMT asset, my friends.
Yeah.
These are more.
Damn, dude.
DMT assets. Dude, that's fucking cool, dude. Those are QR codes, aren't they?
Yes.
I wonder if they're like donations to contribute. Possibly.
Maybe so.
Man, shout out Nakamoto, dude, putting in the hard work.
Yeah, killing it, dude.
So this is what I'm talking about. These are the non-arbitrary assets, right? The non-arbitrary tokens from the DMT protocol itself.
Oh, he's missing the NatCat, dude. Is that on the other side of the
other patch?
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. It's okay. It's fine. NatCats have plenty of glory and esteem. It's time to, amplify some of the other things. Can you name all those off the top of your head? Let's see.
Yeah, we got
Natfrogs.
Natfrogs. We have
Nattributes, right?
Nattributes.
We got the Natpunks.
Natpunks. Heroes. We got
Natalias. That's the Unat Pepes. Natbats.
Yeah.
Chaos.
And
the vessels.
And substance.
Well, DMT vessels.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, dude. That's cool to see. This is what it's all about, dude. I think ultimately at the end of the day, when it comes to like Web3 product iteration and trying to find product market fit. It's whether or not the things you produce generate some type of new culture.
Yeah.
I think this is a representation of there's some cultural contribution coming out of the DMT front. Would you say?
Yeah, and not only that, it's culture, but it's also the unique output of Bitcoin,
right?
In all of Bitcoin's ecosystem. Like Ordinal's very good meta protocol, very good. Mm-hmm. But putting pictures on Bitcoin, I mean, it's not that interesting.
Yeah, it seems to be evidently so, right? Like there's quite the like snooze vibes around ordinals.
Yeah,
right?
and so I say it's not that interesting because you could just do it on every chain and like, yeah, that's great. But you know, there's something that Bitcoin does provide to those people that are putting pictures on a chain. It's like it's there forever. Cool. It's just not going to elicit any sort of real cycle attention. And we predict that, right? As soon as we saw Ordinals, like, this is great. It's like, what can you do with this that is actually, you know, interesting? And it's DMT.
Yeah, we had a Twitter space last night, and we kind of got into this type of discussion with some random developer in like the AI agent sector. I wish I remember the name, Ash, but I mean, there's like so many Ashes out there. It's one of the Ashes.
Yeah, how do I find this guy?
I don't know. It's Ash. Yeah, you'll find him here. So I recommend you guys watch it if you have time or listen to it. It should be that one, right? May 28th, episode 37.
Yeah, let me mute it.
Yeah, well, yeah, at some point he comes on stage, maybe like around the 10-minute mark. Damn it. It's not working. Well, anyways, we had a conversation with this lad.
Oh, it's up here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Axel?
That's his company.
Yeah.
Maybe he's following.
Nope, not following himself. There he is on the Ash. He's the penguin in a pineapple.
Oh, here it is. Yeah.
What a PFP. Ash Ahmed. There you go. Verifiable agents get at Axel. He skipped class at Harvard.
So did I, dude.
I skipped Harvard altogether. You know, that's how elite I am, dude. I didn't even have to like completely faded Harvard.
Yeah,
you know? But that's pretty cool. I didn't realize we were talking to a Harvardite. You know.
Yeah.
But he was a pretty smart kid. You know, definitely sounded pretty young.
Yeah, for sure.
But he
was like Napster. I mentioned Napster. I was like, the fuck's Napster?
Yeah, maybe. That is damn. I guess we're old if we could talk about like early internet primitives and like the younger gen has like no idea what we're talking about.
CDs.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, it was a really good conversation. I recommend everybody to listen to it, specifically for you could listen to when someone like is taking in that DMT pill. And like the brain's like neurons are just like firing.
Yeah, that's tough because it's one of our biggest struggles, right? And because you can't just like tell somebody, you could tell somebody at surface level like what DMT is, but until you like hit like a vector of what it is that they're like already like naturally aligned with and interested in.
AI.
In this specific case, it was AI, right? Because we started off by explaining to him how NAT came about, right? The token NAT. It's a fungible token created, the first one from this protocol. And then you could explain how NAT cats come about. Like it's a PFP, generative PFP collection that leverages these data components on Bitcoin's blocks to generate the cats themselves. The patterns that determine its supply existence have only occurred 4 times in history, which at face value, that means there's only 4 NAT cats. It's like, no, because it's strung to the bits field, which has 2016 block occurrences per interval, right? So like, that's when patterns shift after 2000 blocks. That means there's 8,000 cats.
8,064.
Over the last 15, 16 year course of Bitcoin so far. And then this thing 100 years from now can still be generating, right? So I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's a neat story, but still, I want to go back to my life of AI, agent, because that's way more interesting than what you're telling me.
That's right.
But then you bring up like an application for something like AI agents, and it really like registered right away. right?
Yeah, yeah. He instantly got it. It's like, yeah. You mentioned codons, and so there's a synonymous nature between like nature and life with AI, obviously, right? And artificial intelligence. And so when you say things like codon, I think people of the AI like cut, they tend to understand what that means. And so if you could tie these patterns to like AI agent codons or I would say personality types, different attributes, access to MCP servers, for example, in a way that is non-arbitrary, you create an AI agent workforce that is completely unique and non-arbitrary that could amount to something. Its output is very unique.
Yeah.
And so he understood that pretty quickly, and he was excited about, thinking about how to leverage something like that.
Yeah, so like that's when you get to experience like the wheels churning in real time, and that's what it is ultimately we're trying to accomplish by getting the idea and the concepts of DMT more like ubiquitously applied across all these vectors that we're talking about, right? Like clearly it works for art. Clearly it can work for the tokenization of fungible tokens, right? Like it has for NAT and such. Now, of course, the utility spectrum for that is like very broad and open to experimentation, but per the liquidity issues of the Bitcoin token landscape, it's pretty non-viable at the moment. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Which, but there are solutions abroad that, can contribute on that front. But still, you want the idea and the conceptual understanding of this is the innate value proposition that Bitcoin can supply to like the rest of the systemic nature of the crypto space, right? It's just not intuitive, and like the full on connections haven't been formulated yet, right? And that's our responsibility. At least that's what we feel like, right?
Yeah, and I feel like the only way to really accomplish that is to have creators to leverage what it is that we're talking about, to showcase examples, right? We showcased art, more art came, right? We're going to be showcasing AI. We expect more AI to come, right? And so I feel like this is what is necessary, because we could talk all day as we do, and like it's still not going to make sense for most people.
I agree. It's we've been doing that for a while.
Yeah,
talking about this stuff and developing our native tools for our ecosystem and such. And there's a period of time where these things were flying, and there was quite the creative energy in the environment. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure.
But that has dissipated pretty dramatically. Would you also agree?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's good. That is not a good state of things, right? So something needs to change in order to get that creative energy, the ebb and flow of that back into the direction of DMT.
Yeah, and it all starts with incentives.
Okay.
Right? So typically in 2021 and even in today's age, people create something, let's say PFP projects, a very simple thing to understand. And then they set a price, and then they hit and launch. And if there's interest, all 10,000 items, 1,000 items, whatever it is that your collection size is, mints out. The creator makes anywhere between $100K to $30 million in some cases, right? And that's it.
Extreme cases,
in extreme cases, yeah. And that's it. Like transaction done, and it's all up to the community now. And so that, on average, hasn't been as prevalent as it was in 2021. And so, but different incentive mechanisms have been born, right? Those incentives are more closer to launching a token and using the volume as a fee generation mechanism to distribute to creators.
Yeah, we're seeing that play out in real time with Believe, right? Because we made a video this week about that platform, but that's one of the other things that was happening during our 2-week hiatus.
Yeah.
Was that the proliferation of ICMs, Internet Capital Markets. Like, we got a whole new buzzword out there, right? It's amazing how like every other week a new buzzword just kind of spawns. That was like the 2-week ago buzzword. The buzzword happening right now is InfoFi, right? It's like Kaido and Cookie have formulated a systemic process to convert like social influence into like, new monetary value.
Yeah.
Wrappers of monetary value. It's just now being tinkered with and explored. I think today, if you're listening to this, will be Saturday. That's when like the first IAO is scheduled to occur. Initial attention offering, I think, is what that stands for.
Yeah.
We made the LOUDIO token, right? It's like a whole experimental wrap up of like incentivizing, like you're saying, people who frequently yap on Twitter as becoming like essentially the main reward recipients for token launches.
Describe a yap. Is it tweeting in a certain way or tweeting about something specifically?
Well, yeah, I think yapping in general is the idea of propagating some sort of useful information on crypto Twitter.
Okay.
So I think that's how you accrue like your yap reputation. Like
so these platforms like Cookie and Kaido, they have AI scrapers.
Yeah.
Who look for valuable content.
Yeah, I guess. So they have their own like algorithms along with their AI scraping infrastructure, whatever. The data
aggregator
and parser, right? And then they apply this algorithm to it to determine, I guess, like quality metrics to the content itself, and to try and like, determine if some of this stuff is authentic or not, right?
Yeah.
Because of course you create an incentive flywheel, you're going to get exploitation attempts.
So in return of yapping, meaning creating quality content, so in return for that, LOUDIO takes the volume and the fees associated to that volume and distributes it
for their own token
to the top Kaido or top yappers.
Yeah, the loudest loud yappers, I guess.
And it's only the top 25
as of right now.
Yeah.
But the IAO has like 1,000. So if you're in the top 1,000 of their leaderboard, which, let's find that leaderboard for people who are interested since we're talking about it. Let's see, LOUDIO. Damn it. Well, I think it's going to be harder to find than I thought. Let's see.
LOUDIO.
We had it on the video recently. It's a Stay LOUDIO. Okay.
Stay LOUDIO. Here we go.
Yeah, staylaudio.io. So as long as you're in the top 1,000 there by this Saturday, so you guys unfortunately will get this information a little late, so you might miss out on the allocation opportunity. But the top 1,000 have access to the pre-sale that they'll be doing, this IAO on Saturday, right?
And the pre-sale is 0.2 SOL.
Yeah, which is what, like 20, 30 bucks, 30, 40 bucks?
Yeah, something like that.
It's nothing, right? It's peanuts. But essentially that's how they're determining like the allocation or the distribution of who gets the earliest access to this token. Then once that's done, the pre-sale is fully allocated and, subscribed, tokens off to the races, and they're going to load up liquidity to Meteora pool, and this token's going to start trading. And then like the real race begins to be top 25, really. Because like if you're top 25, you're yapping the hardest, token's supposed to go up, right? Because everybody on crypto Twitter is competing for that top 25 spot.
Right.
Why? Because in real time, the fees from that are going to be distributed to those people.
Yeah, what I like about this is that it's introducing a potential new primitive that platforms can start using and leveraging.
Well, the primitive already exists. It's Kaido, right?
Like, well, no, I'm talking about primitives in terms of design of
it's true.
Projects.
Yeah, like a new loop into the flywheel design. So that's very pertinent data for platform developers. People who are trying to collectively formulate the best strategy, the best approach at, not just incubating and bootstrapping projects, but ensuring they have success in the long term.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example of something like that. And I think it's like you go to a platform, it's a Launchpad or Marketplace or whatever, and they start collecting points. That's another systemic thing that's been going around. And
it's true.
The reason why they do that is so that they can allocate a percentage to their TGE.
Yeah, or at least that's the perception, right?
Yeah, at least, exactly.
Even, just points alone is enough to kind of like incentivize that behavior or that expectation.
Yeah, it's just like gamifying stuff. Like, it's like you play a game, you see those points, you want to keep playing because you're earning points. You're taking that concept and applying it to real life.
Pretty much, yeah. It's just incentives, any kind of incentive at the end of the day to get people active and participant.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, this is important because, this is directly tying to like the lifeblood of like the crypto force, which is crypto Twitter, and unfortunately it definitely narrows like the benefactor portions of this to a lot of like already well-positioned, influencers.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be really tough for like newcomers to try and come in and claim mindshare dominance away from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they've been at it for years now.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. They were paid to be at it for years.
Some of them. Yeah. Like some of them, but some of them organically rose to fame like an Ansem, right? Like he just happened to be positioned around the Solana ecosystem at like the perfect time and be like the champion voice of like when everybody was fudding it to its max, post FTX collapse, like Solana has no future. He's over here saying like, hold on a second. There's like a culture brewing here.
Yeah.
That you guys are mistakenly fading, right?
Yeah.
This is meme culture. Like this has a lot more staying power than you think. So he's recommending his current day followers is probably nothing what it is today. He's like, bros, we should probably support Dog with Hat, right? Because this is our cultural rally. This is what's going to get people to respect Solana again. And then boom, he probably made those tweets when it's like a $1 million market cap, ends up being 10 billion or wherever the hell it went to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guess what? He's got clout now, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and he's telling people, I told you so. You should have listened to me, right? And now, all he has to say is basically anything, and he's topping these leaderboards.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's how it should be. But systematizing it and leveraging it is a different situation.
Yeah, well, so we're thinking about it from platform developer perspectives, right? Because, we want this... We want to be able to build a platform where creators can like build things, but and leverage the
community.
Leverage the market environments that exist today, which are very like at the current moment per its design and per its primitives, it's very fickle and short term, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the result of that is like tremendous velocity and like volume at the end of the day, which is enough to like bootstrap a lot of things in its earliest of stages to get it to some point of viability.
We were talking about Monero Nakamoto here.
Yeah.
And his efforts, right, he's putting a lot of effort into talking about the NAT token.
He really
right?
is.
And so his efforts should be compensated in this systemic way. Right? And so, but that didn't exist when we launched the NAT token, and like these things are fluid, right? But But as a builder, you're trying to understand what the market, has a hold of. And this mechanism seems to have viability, right? It seems to be something that should be considered in terms of like tech stack design.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a net good for the space because that's the debate happening now, right? Some people think this is like the ultimate grift add-on, and now we're just gonna have even more inauthenticity in the space because now everybody's just a paid actor. Like nobody like genuinely has conviction in anything. It's just a competition for some leaderboard positioning. Right?
Yeah, but that's the value that AI brings, is that the AI sort of assigns points to value. So if you're producing valuable content, like absolutely valuable, then theoretically, if the algorithm does work, if the AI works, you get points and therefore more leaderboard positioning.
Yeah, I feel like AI is AI is like half the story. There needs to be some more like human intervention involved too. Like you're saying, this is a perfect example. Like imagine Nat was one of these tokens and you can quantify social influence as far as like, people on Twitter who are daily posting, bull posts about it.
Yeah.
Putting out tweet threads explaining the implications of it and like how it's potentially a new Bitcoin subsidy, like all that stuff that the AI can for sure quantify that as like a valuable contribution, and your score, your ranking goes up naturally because of that. But something like this, which is like, I don't know, more visual.
No, the AI can read pictures. I don't know if the AI will understand the context of the picture.
I just don't know if the AI could like see these 4 pictures and like be able to do the same thing as like put it.
I think it could. It's like there's
a lot of Nat or like gnat focused imagery in this picture, so score go up, right?
But not only that, it's a human who is like
in some event.
At some event, who has draped themselves in the token.
Yes.
Like that
personified the token.
And personified. That is a significant amount of effort.
Yeah.
Compared to just writing an informational tweet thread.
No, I 100% agree. And that I feel like that would warrant even more weight to
Yeah. But my point is, I feel like the AI could pick that up.
Yeah, it probably could. I just don't know. But I was thinking more like the community has some sort of voting power of some kind to, attribute to events like this that maybe the AI doesn't properly score.
I feel like that's not a bad idea. It's just that it's very biased.
It can be, yeah.
And an AI should be more unbiased. AI should give you information that is unbiased, like truth.
Yeah.
Right? And so this would be there's people out there that passionate about Nat that is willing to go this far.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's why I'm liking this thing, because you're right. Like this amount of effort should be rewarded. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
So we need to systemically figure out how to,
weaponize that.
Weaponize what's happening. Essentially, the utilization of fee accrual, the value of that, and then direct it to the right actors, right? And we're headed in the right direction, because for the longest time it was simply the fees weren't even regarded as some sort of tool. It was just a get for the platform, pumped out funds specifically.
But I guess in this case it's DEX fees, and those fees tend to go to LP providers.
True. That's the first actor that's doing the fundamental contribution.
Yeah, it's crazy that it took us this long to even conceptualize this idea, is that the first actors are LP providers, significantly important.
Yeah, you don't have a viable token without them.
Yeah.
So you need to incentivize capital formation, and so far DeFi has done that wonderfully.
Yeah, 100%. But you know what else you need to incentivize? Creativity, creations.
Yeah. At the end, people need to be building stuff.
Yeah.
They need to be financially motivated to build stuff. That's another equally as valuable form of capital. It's not raw capital, but it's creative capital.
You need to incentivize your community to talk about what you're building, so that the developer isn't the only one talking about it.
Yeah, so now we're talking social capital, right?
Right.
Another form of value that has some sort of pertinent place within the overall umbrella of creating a successful thing.
Yeah.
Successful endeavor, successful initiative, project, whatever you want to call it.
Another thing that goes without saying that needs to be said actually is that you need a protocol, a blockchain that recognizes this at the smart contract level as a protocol level and respects these rules.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just do it on a marketplace level.
How come? Why not?
Well, because you could just trade this token somewhere else and then disregard the community and the developer and LP fees and
correct. So you're going back to the old arguments as to on-chain royalties is it's kind of like the beginnings of the conversation of this. That's something the Ethereum community's been struggling with.
Yeah, talk about dropping the ball. and you know what? It's not really Ethereum's fault or anything, because they didn't. It's hard to design a protocol and think about so many things into the future.
Yeah, but it's something about Ethereum. It's not even just Ethereum. It's or maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it's the token protocols itself, or maybe the virtual machine state of Ethereum, where it makes iteration that much more difficult. Meaning because there's such an ingrained infrastructure support for the ERC20, ERC721 standards.
True, there is inertia there for sure.
Yeah, but it's so monumentally difficult to add any new layer of functionality on top of that.
The protocol of ERC20 is good enough for what we saw in 2017, right? It was good enough.
What about 2021? It's good enough.
I mean, it's fine.
We had
DeFi
and NFTs.
Yeah. It was fine.
Active markets.
But it's no longer fine anymore. It's no
Correct.
longer fine. You can't just like give me a token and just give me the ability to send it to somebody else, and then that's the end of the day. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Right? You need to be able to have a protocol, let's say ERC7 or ERC21. Not 721, but ERC21.
Or ERC20C, which
or 20C
exists, or 721C, which is the idea of putting royalties on chain, the royalty enforcement on
exactly.
chain.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's one. Yeah.
You got to have these things. You have to. That's the point of programmable money.
Yeah.
And so what does it mean? So we have an entire industry that says we support ERC20 because just come to my platform and, I see your tokens.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have ERC20C.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, now we have a new protocol that the industry needs to adopt, but they won't adopt it until there's traction.
Yeah.
So you're putting the cart before the horse. And so someone needs to be the front man here and leverage ERC20C and take advantage of its properties.
Yeah, but that
despite being on an island.
Yeah, that's the problem. You'll be on an island. That means you have to build like a DEX.
Yeah.
And like whatever other DeFi rails that are needed in order to support the viability of an ecosystem that's built under these parameters, these rule sets.
Yeah, I said it was needed. I didn't say it was easy.
Yeah, that's the problem, dude. Right?
That is a problem. It's so hard to innovate.
Yeah.
Like, how do you innovate on ERC20? You don't.
Yeah.
You do some ERC20 kung fu on your marketplace, but that's as much as you could do.
Yeah. So you're alluding to the fact, or I don't know if you are alluding to or not, but some of these things are already natively possible on Solana, right?
Correct. Yes.
Which we were discovering these token 2022.
It's called Token 2022.
Yeah, like that.
The worst name ever, but it's fine.
Yeah, just shorten it down. T22, whatever.
T22.
T22. That's what we're calling it. But yeah, that has these embedded functionalities to where, like we're saying, we're identifying different actors that can contribute to the longevity support of a token, right? Like, obviously, the act of launching tokens is very important. Like, this cycle is very centered around formulating like the right way to do it.
Yeah.
And it seems like every other week somebody's coming out attempting or like throwing their ingredient list at the the pile of flour here.
Yeah.
We're trying to cook something, right?
Yeah.
And it's at 1 week it's like like Boop. It's like, how about we direct all these fees to people who stake this native token?
Yeah, correct.
Essentially, we're funneling all the value back to the degens, the traders.
Yeah.
At first, that seemed very appealing, but didn't have the real longevity support for anything, right? Because you're completely fading the creator, right? So guess what? Nothing new is happening on your platform.
Yeah, just more memes, which no incentive to hold any of the tokens long term, I should say.
Yeah, it's more memes, and like, Pumped Out Fun is dominating that category, right? So it's just not good enough, right? And then in comes Believe. It's like, how about funneling that in the creator's direction instead?
Focus on Web 2 developers.
Yeah, an even more narrow application or understanding of a creator, right? Not like artists or metaverse developers, or for the time being, they're focused on Web 2 app creators, like Silicon Valley types.
Because it solves a form of a problem, right? So if you're an independent developer, it's you're by yourself, maybe you have a co-founder or a so-called co-founder. You're two developers. You're creating an app, vibe coding an app, let's say. And it's like the first thing typically before crypto, it's like, man, we need to raise funds. So I got to start a company. I need to issue shares. I got to do all this like BS.
Yeah.
Right. But Believe is like, no. Just launch on Believe and, keep your community updated. Volume would accrue on your token, and therefore fees would be sent to you directly.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And it's like, if you're successful, you could generate millions of dollars in fees.
Yeah. And that sounds pretty attractive, right? It's like, wow, that's very alluring. You're telling me I don't have to like suffer through these like Silicon Valley luncheons and shit with like, you know, these junior VC firm goons and try and like
junior partners.
Yeah, bring my pitch decks around
Yeah.
to them individually and get rejected 20 times.
Yeah, 100 times.
Yeah. So you're saying all I have to do is, you know, essentially put my pitch deck on like some landing page somewhere.
Yeah.
And maybe build like an MVP prototype of something.
Yeah.
And then use your platform to launch a coin. And you think that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
Not realizing that's like 10% of it. Right.
Yeah, maybe at minimum 10%.
Yeah.
This is like a ton of work associated to doing just that. You got to do Twitter Spaces. So you're a dev. If you're a real dev, you're not a good talker.
Yeah, it seems to be very prevalent, right? When you say dev, so in the crypto sense, nowadays the word dev has been co-opted.
Yeah,
meaning
true,
like
true.
Token deployer is a dev.
An actual coding developer.
Okay, a programmer, developer,
full
whatever.
stack.
Yeah. Full stack engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not the loquacious type, right? Like,
it's a fancy word.
I remember hearing that in what's that movie? Inglourious Bastards.
Loquacious?
Yeah, it's like you're not very talkative, right?
So I'm not very loquacious.
You are not. I don't think you would
qualify.
Yeah, tending to talk a great deal. Talkative. Yeah, you are not loquacious, dude. At all.
Dude, I could sit quietly for years, dude.
I know.
kind of odd that you wound up in a podcast, huh?
It's extremely odd.
I totally agree.
It was your idea, dude. What the fuck? What a weird idea to have as a non-loquacious type.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess I'm not loquacious for sure, but once I'm passionate about something, I could talk all day without losing energy.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm talking to somebody about like the weather and like just like small talk, I lose energy instantly.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I vibe with that. I understand that.
Right.
But you're right. A lot of these engineers, they tend to be the ones who are technically capable to like develop some type of product of interest. But yeah, they have that misunderstanding, right? In Web 2 world, you can be that type and to like with some sort of fundamental contributions to incubate and kickstart your company.
Mm-hmm.
You can essentially bring on some more marketing centric people as part of your team and then let them handle the comms and stuff, because your customers, your users don't have the same mentality as like a Web3 user or customer.
100%.
Right? It's like they're not using your product and they're not wondering. It's like, I wonder if the product visionary of this platform that I'm using is actually about like the culture of something that whatever this product is demonstrating, right? Or
so true.
In Web3, it's completely not that. It's like the users are 100% in alignment forever with like the founder mentality and the energy that the founder's putting out.
Yeah, I guess the short-term word for this, they are investors.
I thought you were going to say they are cult members. You know?
Yeah.
They're not investors. They're investors first, but what they really want to be, they want to be in a
believers.
cult.
They want to be believers.
They want to be community members. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Murad said this best, right? It's like, and that's why he theorized or thesisized that the meme coin is the best vessel for this, because it removes all that execution risk. And then all you have to do is focus on the cult itself.
Yeah.
Cult, like,
you know, it's fine. You know, I think that's fine. He's correct. And it's fine. But Web3 is useful, right?
Yeah.
You can do more things than memes. And there are a lot of functionalities that memes have pioneered in the sense of pump.fun and bonding curves and all these feed generation stuff. That is very useful, right? So you can take that functionality and apply it to PFP creators and metaverse developers and anyone building a Web 2 application. And so that solves other things. Like now you don't have to go get VC. Now you could get starting capital to do your crazy launch. Because if you were an investor and I brought to you Pump.Fun, it's like, here's the website, we're going to be launching memes systemically. Like that is not a thing that investors would invest in.
Mm-hmm.
And then, in today's day and age, you could just launch the website and see what happens. So it doesn't take a 50-person team to launch something like Pump.Fun.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, there's a fundamental potential incompatibility to a lot of, very talented devs, and what it is that the token, the owners of your token that you're putting out there through a platform like Believe or a pump token, whatever, that's more ICM centric, internet capital market centric, not understanding your full role as like the deployer of that thing, right?
Yeah.
It expands beyond just being able to build a good product, right? I mean, of course, that is the end goal, because that's the net gain we get to all enjoy from our space. Like, look, we've actually, as a collective, as an ecosystem, as an infrastructure layer, we've incubated something that now has millions of users. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
that's something we're all like rallying for. Like, so a platform like Believe, kind of like it's good. It's a really good thing, because it increases that vector of possibility again, right? Because before we thought that was completely cooked. It's like ICOs are dead.
Yeah.
IDOs are dead also.
Yeah.
And
how are creators going to make anything now?
Yeah, and even in the art space, it's like, just art, selling anything of digital collectible value is like dead. You can't really just get away with that anymore. So
yeah, I agree.
How do you do anything anymore? Right?
Yeah.
ICMs, internet capital markets, dude.
It's the only way.
So far.
And not only that, it's the only way, but the blockchain, which is the protocol, needs to support this stuff. That it is infinitely important.
We're finding out.
Yeah.
like literally we're finding this out like in real time, how important that is, because we're identifying the multi-party like effort that it actually takes to create successful tokens, right? Because we're in this stage where people are iterating new launch models and new launch platforms, and they tend to do kind of well for a little bit, but most of their stuff just eventually craters to the staticville. Yeah. Where like hype is gone, perception of value is, fleeting.
That's right.
How do you not, have that, right? That's the next, I think, step forward. Having a more like long-term approach, and like I don't know, people call that nowadays flywheel design. Others call it Ponzi-nomics. I don't know. Is that really what it takes to keep these things afloat?
Yeah, it's like a perpetual motion machine. Like, those don't really exist, despite some of the YouTube videos out there that have like 50 million views on a perpetual motion machine, which is fake. But yeah, flywheels, they can be designed, but they require fuel still, and that fuel is it's basically information from humans, right? People still have to be interested in your project. That's the fuel.
Yeah, I feel like DMT can contribute here a lot, just because of well, at least for some of the properties of some of the fields of Bitcoin or patterns of Bitcoin, the unpredictable nature, but the persistent emission of them can be like a contributing factor here. Like, if we can tie DMT production of things to token launches, in a sense, where it's like my purpose and motivation for whether it's being a staker or a holder of this token is not just like the fundamental belief I have in the developer himself, but now it's like this DMT asset that's producing non-arbitrarily through some pattern on Bitcoin. It's like I want to remain a holder because I don't want to miss out on the next production cycle.
It's beautiful.
It could happen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like but
it's like in the AI,
another form of yield, essentially.
Yeah, yield in the AI space, they leverage trusted execution environments. We talked about that with Ash in the Twitter space. Again, I recommend you guys watch it or listen to it. And so Bitcoin acts like a trusted execution environment. Like, you don't really have to trust Bitcoin. It's just there. It just works, right? It's going to keep producing every 10 minutes. And so when that pattern occurs again, that PFP project occurs again. And if you design a mechanism to where that PFP project occurs and it goes to randomly one of the holders in the ecosystem, that's an incentive to hold the asset, right? That's an incentive to keep participating in like the conversation on Twitter about how cool the nature it is of what you're into, right? So I feel like there's these, I don't know what you want to call it, primitives, functionalities that need to be designed in this ingredient format to really, really focus on these things, right? These parts that are neglected for the most part. Like, for example, creators don't have any mechanism to create stuff anymore, right? ICOs, like you're saying, are dead. All these things are dead. So then now what? So we need to innovate, see what's working out there, and apply it to different markets that have been sidelined.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so so it's good. The internet capital market phenomena, it's good. And then the additional injection of, SocialFi, InfoFi, whatever, like that's going to be a helpful resource, I think, to align, the community and like just the market itself to continually supporting, I guess, at least the right things, right? Because, you what it is how you determine what to yap about is like, you're not going to yap about a project you don't think like has any long-term viability.
Yeah.
Or like won't be very fruitful into the future. You want to be yapping. Essentially, you got to become loyal yappers, right? Because there's going to be so many projects in the future, assuming all these launch pads, because there's already like at least 2 or 3 new ones a week emerging.
Yeah.
So imagine that accelerates like over the next 6 months,
It will.
It probably will, right? We're going to see a lot of different launch pads that are targeting different market demographics, different vectors of creativity, all that stuff. And then this whole social graph layer gets integrated into the whole web of that. You're gonna have a lot of options as a yapper, like so, but you have to pick your horse, right?
Yeah.
Because you have limited bandwidth, your social capital, just like your real capital.
Mm-hmm.
You could choose the strategy of like spreading your chips. Like it's like you have a portfolio that's like diversified up the ass.
Yeah.
But you tend not to gain as much, right?
That's right. Yeah.
You might mitigate risk a lot to where, you spread your eggs in multiple baskets. Some go up, some go down, but like
your net gain is
very minimal. Yeah. It's typically the ones who have built conviction thesis in like 1 or 2 things. They experience like the astronomical gains if they're right. Right.
Yeah.
So from a social yapper perspective, same thing. You have to really like allocate your yap powers to something you really believe in, right?
Like NAT token.
Yes. How do we get NAT into this like web, dude? That's
a great question. I have a way. It's not in a systemic like what we're talking about. It's not a systemic way of doing it, but it's like vicariously helping NAT.
What's it, vicariously?
Yeah.
What?
Using fees to support the NAT token.
What fees exactly?
Well, fees from a platform.
Yeah, so then we'd have to get NAT on a platform that has the capability of redirecting those fees, again, to these interested parties that are helping contribute. Yeah, man, the more I think about it, the more this makes a lot of sense for all tokens.
Yeah, I know. Same here. I mean, let's talk about a good example here, right? Outer Studios.
Yeah.
Here's a look at another faction of orbitals, the Tyrelium? Tyrelium?
There you go.
Tyrelium?
Yeah.
We expect these to account for roughly 4 to 5% of the ordinal or orbital population. Only Bitcoin knows for sure, though. So what this is telling me, and Outer Studios is about to launch this here in a few weeks, but what this is telling me is that he's using patterns on Bitcoin that occur roughly 4 to 5% of the time. And there's no way to know which one is actually going, or which block actually has that particular pattern.
Well, collectively, so I guess we need to like zoom out a bit, like on what orbitals are, because to my understanding, this is an upcoming large scale mint, right? Meaning every single block of Bitcoin can be minted as part of this project experiment, but only like 1% of those blocks will contain one of these creatures, an orbital.
Yeah.
So what is that? 1% of how many blocks exist? Like roughly 900,000?
900,000. So it's like rough, give or take 9,000.
A 9K collection of things. So that's right around the realm of expectation, right? It's like a 10K project in a sense.
That's right.
But the act of like generating one is what's different. It's not like, here's this arbitrary supply of whether these are avatars or agents, we don't really know yet. They're cool.
Yeah.
They're 3D badass things, that can be, I guess, utilized in many different ways. But so 1% of them will manifest.
Yeah.
But that leaves 99% of non-manifestation, right?
Correct. Yeah, which that other 99% is still part of the ecosystem. It's just leveraged in a different way.
Yeah.
But this is a creator who's developing what looks like metaverse assets here. It could be AI agents or avatars. Doesn't really matter. But they're in this 3D environment. But we got a creator, very talented one, who's doing this as ordinals. So the fact that you can put this on Bitcoin is just mind-boggling in the first place.
I would agree.
Right? So it's an ordinal, and we got a talented creator, and we have an environment that is not conducive for creations, right? And so we need to figure out a way to make this have product market fit to the existing environment. That's the challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we just talked for like the last 30 minutes about
how there is a way.
Well, some of the ingredients of like making that more optimal, but it hasn't been applied at all to something like this.
No. That's what I'm saying. It's like this hasn't launched yet. But what I'm saying is, in it, we agree. We are all under the understanding that today's environment is not conducive for creators, right? Under the traditional schemes.
Yes.
Right. And so we have a creator who's looking to create stuff in an environment that is not conducive for creations.
Yeah.
Like there's an incompatibility here is what I'm trying to identify.
Yeah.
And
in other words, this isn't a meme. So
that's right.
So what do you do? Where do you launch this?
Yeah, as a creator, what do you do?
Yeah.
Right.
How do you launch? What is the proper go to market route?
Yeah.
For something like this. Yeah, we thought we were, during the last year's like UNAT run, we built mScribe to support creators through the
traditional methods.
Traditional legacy model, which is create something and create a listing price of that thing for some type of sale. Right?
Yeah.
That's what we did mostly in 2021, and that's what we're still trying to do, like platforms like Magic Eden and OpenSea. That is still their prevalent business model and mode of operation is to support that.
Yeah, and they're still generating revenue and things are fine, but they're not. When you compare it to what else is happening out in the ecosystem, it's not fine. You get $10 million in volume on your platform. Sounds like a good day, but other platforms are doing that on the hour.
Yeah.
So we got to figure it out. We got to do something different.
Yeah. I agree, dude. I'm right there with you. Like that to us, we've been on this continual journey to try and figure out how to get, I don't know. Earlier on, it was more focused on like just the metaverse creator alone because it was such a motherfucker of an endeavor to try and build anything.
Yeah.
And to even narrow the context of that, like build things specifically in Decentraland in like 2020, 2021 era.
Yeah.
It's very difficult and very expensive. We had firsthand experience of like projects that raised millions of dollars to build something in that specific metaverse ecosystem, and it couldn't be done.
Yeah,
it was that challenging. Well,
right.
it could be done, but it just
wasn't. It required different thinking.
Yes. So like that is like our initial scope of problems we needed to solve in that time, right? Because we wanted to see a flourishing metaverse economy.
Yeah.
We were tired of walking around and seeing like empty plots all over the place.
A dead mall.
Yeah, the dead mall. Yeah, it's this builder tool content that did nothing.
Still does nothing.
Just 3D statues. Yeah, it's all a bunch of like non-interesting things that didn't produce any actual value. We knew back then right away, it's like the metaverse is going nowhere until we figure out like how do we properly build the right rails to support creator monetization and sustainability for the long run so they can keep producing more value over time.
Yeah.
Things that like, platforms like Roblox figured out, very well.
Yeah.
But like we need the Web3 iteration of that. Still hasn't been done.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of these primitives are still in development, really. Like the Kaido and Cookie, like these InfoFi, like these are still new platforms, but they appeal to certain functionalities that Web3 development requires, like community members talking about your stuff constantly.
Yeah, I'm liking this, dude. I'm liking the direction we're headed because, it's like at first LPs were the main benefactors of DeFi. Now creators are starting to become benefactors of DeFi. and then social influencers, community members, whatever. Like this pie can be split in many more directions. Whatever's needed, right? Whatever's needed to sustain like the longevity support of some sort of project or initiative. We now have like the programmable levers of that.
That's right.
Man, I feel like we were super early to that understanding, because like if you go back to our earliest episodes, we're talking about these things called metas, these metaverse tokenized applications. The whole premise behind that was the idea of programmable splits, like because
it was an ecosystem. The metaverse is an ecosystem. It's not like any one party is like benefiting every single time, like Roblox.
Yeah,
Roblox is not creating an ecosystem. Yeah. They are creating a platform for developers to make stuff, and they're taking 70% of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, there's many different actors involved in that ecosystem, specifically for the metaverse. There's like the landowners. Those are the people who have like the development bandwidth space. There's the people who actually own the content themselves, the meta owners, right? Those are the people who can bring a new valuable piece of content to the landowner space. And now you've got like the possibility of like user retention, right? Those two combined. And then of course you've got like different little microtransaction like elements within that also need to be compensated. And then of course you got the developers and the creators behind all this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And then the platforms itself in that day and age was MetaZone, right? So
that's right.
These are a lot of different fee directions that needed to be accounted for in order to support all that stuff. So
yeah.
That's something we realized,
quite the foreshadowing, dude.
Yeah, we're here again, dude.
Yeah.
But we're not the ones doing it. It's being done for us. Like,
yeah.
I think we're finally there.
Oh, damn time, dude.
Yeah, it's good times. I think good times are actually ahead, dude.
Yeah. So for those of you who have been watching this YouTube video and you don't know what the hell we're talking about, stay tuned, because this will become clear over the weeks. But for those who have been watching this channel for a while, you're already picking up on the hints that we're putting down.
Maybe. Probably.
Maybe. No, most likely. I mean,
yeah.
People who are still watching this channel, they get us.
Yeah, I would say so. It's just one of those fine lines we got to walk, right? Where it's like, clearly we're headed in some direction. And if you've been watching us long enough, you understand whenever we're onto something, we tend to build that thing out pretty openly and transparently. And we're talking about all of our reasonings and the logical deductions that led us to this pathway along the way, so that we are all in alignment and understanding. Right?
Yeah, we're going to have to tag this podcast as like, I don't know, like step 1 in this journey.
Mm-hmm.
Something that gives us indicator that this is like the beginning of something interesting.
Okay, I'll think of that.
Yeah.
What to put in the title, I guess. I don't know, dude.
Stage 1.
Like an emoji?
An enlightenment. It's like stage 1 is like an enlightenment.
I feel like stage 1 happened a long time ago, though. Like DMT.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know, man. This whole thing has been like a process of enlightenment. Just that enlightenment curve tends to like
wobble a little bit.
Yeah. Do this. Right. So,
yeah.
So once it's like evades our direction, then it's like, fuck.
It's like, I guess we were wrong.
Yeah. Then we feel like shit, right?
Yeah. It's like, and then it goes back. It's like, no, we were right.
Yeah.
It just needs to be done this way.
Nice and stiff again, dude. That's what you're looking for, is a nice stiffy, dude. You don't want like a limp.
A limp curved? Come on.
Yeah, dude. So we're on our way. Maybe that'll be it, dude. We're in stiff mode. We're on our way. So, but we got to continue this, right? On a weekly basis, I guess.
Yeah, we have to.
Until things become like 100% transparent, not just for ourselves, because we're not there yet also.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Which is why we're like not full gas on the pedal, like explaining ourselves like what it is we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? Well, we'll get there. And as always, you guys are going to join us on this journey.
That's right. Yeah, so that's it for us. I want to remind everybody, go and listen to the Twitter space, because that's just a little peek into, a little bit of the enlightenment that Bitcoin does give creators in a new way, right? So there's that. Please share this YouTube video with anybody who likes creativity, who likes people that think outside the box. and who challenges the status quo, essentially.
Yeah, and he's tired of limp.
Yeah,
limp mode.
Limp curves.
God damn, static curves only, dude.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right, that's it for us. Appreciate you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next podcast.
Peace.